Most people believe their future depends on talent, education, or luck. But very few realize something quieter and more powerful is shaping their destiny every day. It is the people they stand next to, the conversations they listen to, and the invisible expectations quietly surrounding them, like air they breathe. Because the strange truth about life is this: your speed rarely depends on your wings. It depends on the sky you believe you are allowed to enter. And sometimes the difference between a chicken and an eagle is not the body, not the ability, but simply the company. Let me tell you a story that explains this better than any advice ever could. Many years ago, on the edge of a quiet farm surrounded by dry hills and long grass, a farmer found something unusual lying beside a broken nest. It was a large egg, heavier than any chicken egg he had ever held in his hands. Smooth, strong, and strangely beautiful. The farmer looked around but saw no nest nearby, except the coop where his chickens lived, scratching the dirt and clucking lazily under the afternoon sun. So he shrugged, carried the egg back to the coop, and placed it carefully among the other eggs under a warm hen. Days passed, then weeks, and one morning the egg finally cracked open with a sharp sound. Out came a small bird, wet feathers, wide eyes, and a curved beak slightly different from the others. But the chickens did not question it. They simply accepted the chick as one of their own. And the little bird grew up exactly the way the chickens did. Every morning he scratched the dirt looking for worms. Every afternoon he flapped his wings only a little, never leaving the ground for more than a second. Every evening he slept among the chickens, listening to their soft clucking conversations about food, weather, and nothing more. When the chickens ran, he ran. When they stopped, he stopped. When they complained about the wind or the rain, he complained too. Because when you grow up surrounded by a certain way of living, it slowly becomes your definition of normal, and you rarely question normal. Years passed quietly, like this. The bird grew bigger than the others, stronger, his wings wider, his eyes sharper, but he still lived exactly like the chickens. Not because he could not do more, but because no one around him ever showed him a different way to live. Then one afternoon, something unusual happened. The chickens were pecking the ground as usual, when suddenly, a large shadow crossed the farmyard. All the chickens froze. They looked up toward the sky, and there, high above the mountains, gliding through the wind, without effort, was a magnificent eagle. Its wings stretched wide across the blue sky, moving slowly, confidently, as if the air itself belonged to it. The young bird watched in silence, something strange stirring inside his chest, a feeling he had never experienced before. Curiosity, mixed with longing. He turned to the chickens and asked quietly, "What is that bird?" One old chicken barely looked up and replied casually, "Oh, that is an eagle, the king of the sky. But don't think about it too much. We are chickens. We belong down here." The chickens quickly returned to scratching the dirt, but the young bird could not stop looking at the sky. Something deep inside him felt strangely familiar when he watched the eagle glide above the mountains. It was not envy. It was recognition, as if a forgotten memory was slowly waking up inside his bones. That night, he could not sleep. The quiet coop felt smaller than usual. The conversations around him suddenly sounded different. Complaints about worms, arguments about grains, fear of the wind. For the first time in his life, the young bird wondered a dangerous question. What if I am not supposed to live like this? The next morning he tried something new. Instead of scratching the dirt, he climbed onto a small fence. He spread his wings a little wider than before. The chickens laughed immediately. "What are you doing?" One chicken clucked loudly. "You will fall. We don't fly like that." Another chicken added with a chuckle, "Don't be strange. Stay with us."
Stay with
And
us.
for a moment, the young bird hesitated. Because criticism from your circle is one of the strongest forces in the world. It quietly pushes you back toward the limits everyone else has accepted. So he folded his wings again and jumped down from the fence. But something had already changed inside him. Once you see the sky, the ground never feels the same again. Days passed. The chickens continued their routines. But the young bird kept watching the horizon. Every time the eagle appeared in the sky, gliding above the mountains like a silent king, his heart beat faster. Finally, one evening, when the sun was melting into orange light behind the hills, he made a decision. He walked to the tallest rock near the farm. The wind moved softly across the fields. The chickens watched from below, confused and slightly amused. "What are you doing now?" they asked. The young bird did not answer. He simply looked at the sky, took a deep breath, and opened his wings fully. For the first time, the wind rushed under his feathers. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear it echo in his ears. For a brief moment, he felt fear. But then, something incredible happened. His wings caught the air. His body lifted slightly from the rock. He flapped again, and suddenly the ground began to fall away beneath him. The chickens gasped in shock. The young bird rose higher, then higher. Then the wind carried him forward like it had been waiting for him his entire life. And in that moment, he finally understood the truth. He was never a chicken. He had always been an eagle. But here's the deeper lesson most people miss. The eagle did not suddenly grow wings that day. He already had them since the moment he was born. But what changed was not his ability. What changed was his belief about where he belonged. And that belief was shaped by the circle around him. Because the people around you quietly decide the limits of your world. If everyone around you fears risk, you start fearing risk. If everyone around you complains, complaining becomes normal. If everyone around you stays on the ground, flying begins to feel impossible. Not because it is impossible, but because no one around you has ever done it. Look carefully at your own life, your conversations, your daily environment, your closest friends, your workplace, your habits. These circles silently shape your expectations about what is possible for you. They influence how big you think, how brave you act, how far you believe you can go. And often the biggest transformation in life does not come from learning something new. It comes from changing who you stand next to. History quietly confirms this pattern again and again. People grow faster when surrounded by ambition, dream bigger when surrounded by vision, and rise higher when surrounded by courage. Because energy is contagious. Mindset is contagious. Belief is contagious. Your circle either stretches your potential or slowly shrinks it without you noticing. And sometimes the most powerful decision you will ever make is simply choosing a different sky. Now, this does not mean abandoning everyone who currently surrounds you. Life is not that simple or cruel, but it does mean intentionally adding new voices into your world. Books that challenge your thinking. Mentors who raise your standards. Friends who push you to grow instead of stay comfortable. Conversations that expand possibility instead of repeating limitation. Because every new perspective is like opening a small window in the walls of your world, and enough windows eventually reveal the sky. Some people will still laugh when you spread your wings. That is normal. Chickens laugh at flying because flying threatens their understanding of reality. Your growth will always look strange to those who have accepted smaller lives. But remember something important. The eagle did not hate the chickens. He simply stopped believing their limits applied to him. And that quiet shift changed everything. So here is a simple question for you today. Look around your life honestly. Are the people around you teaching you how to scratch the ground? Or how to fly? Your answer may quietly explain the speed of your entire future. Because in the end, your talent matters. Your effort matters. Your discipline matters. But your circle. And maybe today is the day you finally look up at the sky and ask yourself a different question. Not can I fly, but why have I been walking all this time? Because sometimes the eagle inside you has simply been waiting for permission to open its wings.